Good morning, everyone. Today, the Oklahoma Department of Corrections carried out the court-ordered sentence of inmate Gilbert Postelle, who was convicted of 4 counts of murder in the first degree. Inmate Postelle received his last meal at 4:50 p.m. on February 16th and declined his option to have a spiritual advisor present with him in the chamber. The execution process began today at 10:01 a.m. and inmate Postelle was declared unconscious at 10:06 a.m. He was declared deceased at 10:14 a.m. Today's events and the circumstances which led to it have affected many people, especially the family and friends of victims Donnie Swindle, Terry Smith, James Alderson, and Amy Wright. As an agency, we carried out the orders of the court in accordance with our high professional standards and respect for those that were involved, ensuring the dignity of everyone that was involved in the process. Any questions?
Would you describe this as without complications?
Yes, sir, I would. Any other questions?
I don't know if this is, you may not have an answer for this, but I just noticed the difference today between the consciousness check seemed less vigorous than the last one I witnessed, which was the Gilbert Stouffer. That was a very vigorous, they were shaking him, checking his eyes. It seemed like there was a lot of attention paid to that point. And then today it seemed like it was much less vigorous. Just the sternum rub, everything seemed much faster. I didn't know if you had any insight on if there was anything different or why.
No, sir, there was nothing different. I believe that we performed the consciousness check. Now, of course, Gilbert Stouffer was a bigger individual. This individual was much smaller, but we carried out the protocol with respect to the consciousness check, and the inmate was, in fact, unconscious.
Would you characterize this one as the smoothest?
I believe the last couple of executions have been very smooth, and I believe this one was in line with previous executions. This inmate, Postelle, was without comment, was very amenable through the process, meaning that I'm very cooperative, and there really just were no complications or issues at all.
Do you have any concerns with the protocol, knowing the constitutionality is being challenged?
No, sir, I do not want to speak to the protocol. That's a matter of litigation, and I can't speak to that at this point.
We're going to confine our questions to today's events only.
How would you describe the process?
I would say today's process was carried out in accordance with our policy and procedure and the protocol.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here today.
Here in a moment, we'll be joined by Shelley Milner, the sister of Donnie Swindle, and she'll appear and make a statement.
Is that S-H-E-L-L-Y?
It's actually it's S-H-E-L-L-I. Last name Milner, M-I-L-N-E-R.
Whenever I'm ready. Okay.
Hi, I'm Shelley Milner. I'm Donnie Swindle's only sibling. What people don't understand is that it's never over for the families of the victims. Today is not a joyous day for anyone. Today did not end anyone's suffering. Today did not put closure on anything. Today ended one monster's life who stole 4 innocent people's lives. His family grieves as our families have grieved for 17 years. To know that he will never walk this earth again does give me a little more peace than I had yesterday, but I will never have peace knowing what he did to my brother Donnie, to Amy, to James, and to Terry. I will miss my brother every day for the rest of my life. Amy's family will grieve for her. Life has never been the same for them because of this monster. He got what he deserved today. I would like to thank the Oklahoma Attorney General's Office for all they have done over the years. The dedication to victims' families and all the behind-the-scene work and countless hours they put in is amazing. They have been incredible, and I couldn't have done it without them, especially Karen Cunningham. Thank you. Thank you to the Pardon and Parole Board for seeing the truth and letting justice prevail. Thank you to the Department of Corrections for following through with the sentence that was handed down October 2008 by the Honorable Judge Elliott. To the Howe family, you should have had the opportunity a few months ago, and my heart goes out to you and to all of the families who are going through this and have to live with this pain. Thank you.
We'll now hear from our 5 media witnesses today. We want to thank them for their participation. We're going to start with Sean Murphy from the Associated Press, and then we'll just go one at a time after that. So Sean Murphy.
My name is Sean Murphy. I'm a reporter for the AP. I'll just say that the execution appeared to go off without any complications or problems. It began, the curtain came up right at 10 a.m. He was asked if he had any last words. He just shook his head no, and then they began the execution. He glanced to the side a couple of times toward the media witnesses. There were 5 of us media witnesses. There was one witness there that I don't know who she was, and then Dr. Irvin Yen, former state senator and anesthesiologist who's consulted for the state. He was in there with us as well. Mr. Postelle stared straight ahead for the most part, straight up. His foot tapped a couple of times. His eyelids appeared to grow heavy shortly after the execution began, right around 10:02. I could see his chest moving slightly. The doctor came in for a consciousness check at 10:06. Definitely did a noticeable sternum rub. Appeared to call out his name or some kind of verbal interaction with Postelle, who didn't move, and the inmate was declared unconscious at 10:06. I could see his chest still moving slightly at 10:07, and then I noticed no more movement after 10:08. I did see his fingers twitch slightly. I saw a tear roll down the side of his face at 10:10. By 10:11, the color seemed to be draining from his face and his lips. Doctor came in at 10:13 with a stethoscope, checked for presumably for a pulse or a heartbeat, and also flashed a light into his eyes. That was at 10:14, and DOC Director Crow came in at 10:14 and declared the time of death. So curtain went down, and that was it. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Next will be Storm Jones from KWTV9 in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I concur with everything that Sean just said. I had him looking over 3 times, with the last time him looking over at the gallery at 10:02. He was rubbing his thumb and index finger together on his left hand, and his right hand moved, or his right leg rather, moved a little bit. A tear left his left eye at 10:10. When the IV team leader came in at 10:13 and did the consciousness check, it looked to me that he was saying Gilbert over him very loudly, just very close to his face. It looked to me that Dr. Yin took about 9 lines of notes in his legal pad. But other than that, what Sean said matches my notes.
Nolan Clay from the Oklahoman.
What hasn't been discussed, I might add, is that he did not appear to have any family there. The one lady seemed to be an expert. I take it for the inmates' attorneys. She had a stopwatch. She took 1 page of notes. Dr. Yin sit off to our side. He has been a paid expert witness for the state, and he was writing notes on a yellow pad. The last movement I saw was at 10:09, where the inmate's ring finger moved slightly, and it was very quick. I mean, he seemed to react very quickly to the drugs going into his, the midazolam going into his body. So no convulsing, no jerking. Did see his right foot moving under the sheet, and his, as was discussed, his fingers moving, but his eyes were drooping, blinking at 10:01 and then drooping at 10:02, and seemed to mostly close by 10:03. I did see him gulp at one time, but the IVs were in his arms. And any questions?
Wayne Stafford from KOKH 25.
Most of this has already been said. A lot of what happened, something that I noticed in particular was in the midst of looking straight ahead or straight up and looking back at us, when he was making eye contact with me, he made the slightest smirk, maybe just acknowledging my presence. But besides that, it was really no expression on his face at all. It was very quiet, almost not even a single utterance of a word. Even when he was asked if he did want to have any last words, he just shook his head instead of saying anything. And a lot of this has already been said. The consciousness check done at 10:06. I did see the finger slightly move on the left hand at 10:08, and 10:13 the doctor came in and checked his heartbeat and his eyelids as well. That's about it.
Our fifth media witness is Dylan Goforth from the Frontier.
I mean, a lot of this has been covered, obviously, but the only things that I guess that really stood out to me were the effect that the drugs, the speed with which they took hold. I mean, it seemed very, even by 10:02, you could see he had looked over at us a few times, and by 10:02, his mouth was open and his eyes were really glazed over. And then his breathing was really, it was different than other executions I've seen, in that his breathing was very slight from the very beginning, almost. I mean, you didn't see his chest raising or anything. It was very small movements. Even for a while, early on, I didn't see any breathing. Then maybe by 10:06, 10:07, you could see his chest moving a little bit. By 10:10, his color had changed and was very pale, and at that point, he wasn't really breathing or moving anymore. And then the only thing I would note is probably the consciousness check that they did. It's been the same person every time. This time was it was very quick. He came in, just a little tug on the harness, maybe pinched one of his arms, and then declared him left, and then they declared him unconscious. And I think that was 10:06. So that happened very fast, and really the whole process seemed like it went faster than usual this time.
Hey Dylan, you reported this week on edema in previous executions. Were you looking for anything like that? Are you able to? I mean,
you're always looking at their breathing to see what that process is like. Are they having trouble breathing? And he didn't seem to be in any, and you don't know because obviously they're being sedated heavily, but he didn't seem to be struggling at all with his breath. I mean, like I said, it happened really quick. And even by 10:04, I was having to really look to see if you could even visibly see, him taking any breaths. Or I did notice when they called when they did the consciousness check, the microphone came back on, and you could hear maybe him snoring or breathing heavily. So it didn't seem like he was having any trouble. But yeah, I mean, you're always looking at the breathing and how they're doing it. He didn't seem like he was struggling at all. Like I said, it was really slight. Even when we could see it, it was maybe every 3 or 4 seconds he would take a really jagged, short breath, and that was it.